Our guests today are from the Interfaith Community Shelter, Joe Jordan Berenis, the director, right,
Yes,
Joe?
you got it.
Right, and filmmaker, Melissa Edmond. How you doing today, Melissa?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. And we're going to be talking to you about the Interfaith Community Shelter, and I know that, Melissa, you did a film for them.
Yes.
And so we're going to be talking to you about that process.
Okay.
So, but first, let's talk about the Interfaith Community Shelter. Joe, what is the Interfaith Community Shelter? I guess that would be the first question, right?
So the Interfaith Community Shelter is the only come-as-you-are shelter in northern New Mexico.
Okay.
And what that means is that we accept everyone.
Okay.
So, including the pets, I might add. We have a kennel because we don't want anyone to stay outside and freeze to death because they have a dog that they're caring for.
Yes.
So, most of the people we serve do have some form of mental health issues. Some of them are self-medicating, and they cannot get into the other sheltering programs in the city of Santa Fe.
Okay.
For the most part.
Okay.
So,
Just because of details.
Because of either the mental health issue or the substance use issue.
Gotcha.
Usually.
Okay.
So, and we are actually run on volunteer power.
Okay.
It's in the film, but I always say we have everybody from A to Z, from the Adventists to the Zen Buddhists, and you'll see that in the film. And we have about 40, I think actually when I just did the last count, we had 46 faith and community groups participating, nearly 2,000 active volunteers. So there's a lot of moving parts to the shelter.
Okay.
All right. And
So you guys, I watched the film, very good. I enjoyed it, and I thought that it was interesting. I was noticing you guys. I mean, there's a network of people that go in there and help out folks, and the sense I got from it was that it was unconditional love and assistance.
that's right.
That's what I got from that video.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought, you don't get a lot of that in the world anymore.
No, I mean, and for the people we serve, it's really important because most of the people we serve, when they're out on the street, people tend not to get involved with them. They move away from them and so forth. And our approach is to be non-judgmental, to accept them where they're at, to acknowledge their humanity. And I always say this thing about, and I think it's true, is that we all came into this world the same way, and then life happened. And subsequently, most of the people we serve have experienced trauma, and that's why they're homeless. I mean, and a lot of the people we serve, just so you know, most of the people, we feed people, we have 3 programs, and I could explain that. But most of the people who come into the building, they have, a lot of them are between 50 and 80. They've had productive lifestyles, lives rather, earlier on, and somehow later in life they ended up dealing with a mental health issue that rendered them homeless.
Oh wow!
So that's, and if you come to the shelter, you'll see in the evening in particular that we have a lot of older people who once had. I mean, we have people who had careers. We had people. I have a woman who's suffering from psychosis right now. She's been there 3 years. And she'll just babble incoherently and so forth. She walks around. If you see her, she looks like the stereotypical bag lady, the rags and the dresses, pushing a shopping cart. I bought her book on Amazon that she wrote in 2010.
Oh wow!
So, and she went to the University of Indiana. She used to own an art gallery, etc. And the book itself is called These Stolen Flowers. And it's a rape awareness book. So I'm assuming, because we don't do any kind of extensive histories, that is really the trauma that she experienced in her life.
How has I mean, I'm sure, how long has the shelter been around for?
The shelter itself has been, well, where we're located, on Cerrillos Road,
Yes.
Has been there since 2012, I believe.
Okay.
Preceded my arrival.
Okay.
So, but what happened was back in the winter of 2007, it was before I got here, apparently it was a very cold winter, and something like I've heard varying figures, something like 21 to 24 people who were homeless froze to death on the streets of Santa Fe. And that's when
I remember that storm.
Yeah, so that's when
Crippled the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's when the faith communities came together and decided that they had to do something about this.
I'm sure that some of those folks, they're still around, It was 2007.
So, yeah.
Some of the founders.
They are.
Have you talked to them as to how much this has grown and your automation of how we take care of folks, the the unconditional acceptance? Was that in their vision? Is that something that had to grow with the assistance of other organizations that helped you guys out? Because you're able to do more with the assistance, right? Have you talked to them about that?
Well, I can speak to the last. I've been there 5.5 years.
Yeah.
So I can actually speak to that. The agency itself has really grown over the last 5.5 years. Originally, we were just a seasonal night shelter, and I think it was actually from October, beginning of November to April. We're now from the seasonal part is now for men, women, and children is now from mid-October to the first Saturday in May. So that has extended, but we also have additional programming. I think when I got there, the budget was about $200,000. It's now about $1 million.
Wow.
So there were 3 or 4 partner providers. There are now 10 partner providers. So there was one program. Now we have a day services program, which, if you saw in the video, runs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And people can get showers, and they get free clothing, they get lunch, and our partner providers are there if they need health care. Health care for the homeless is there. The VA is there every day. LifeLink is there. So there's myriad services involved. And then a couple of years ago, back in the summer of 2015, women only had 1 or 2 choices once the seasonal night shelter closed. And that was either to go it alone or to hook up with a man for protection. And then once that guy drank, all bets were off. And so that summer we had several women beat really badly. We had 2 women die, actually, one at a campsite in Siringo, St. Francis. And that's when the board decided we're saving women from hypothermia only to die in the summer. And subsequently, that's when the board decided to raise the money to keep the shelter open all year round for women and children. So this summer, for example, we've been housing women and children all summer.
And you guys offer just a few, name a few things, medical,
right?
Correct. Also medical for pets.
Yep.
Veterinary services.
Yes. Carrying canes.
Veterinarian services.
Yeah. Street Homeless Animal Project.
Food, of course.
Yeah.
And then housing too as well, right?
Right.
Clothing.
Last year we gave away more than 42,000 articles of clothing.
Wow.
I know in the video I said 33. That was the prior year, so we've gone up.
Well, that's great. And you guys are located. What's the address?
2801 Cerrillos Road.
That's pretty awesome. Looking for more volunteers, I assume?
Always. We operate on volunteer power.
Okay.
We have literally 2,000 active volunteers. So, and I think the great thing about that is that it embeds the shelter in the community and embeds the community in the shelter. And the people we're serving are part of our community.
Yeah.
I mean, and people tend to
Absolutely.
forget that. They tend to isolate them and act as if they are not part of our community. But they are. And they're knowledgeable. And when something comes out in the newspaper that negative about people who are homeless, they're at the library reading this stuff, and they'll come in and they'll talk to me about why do they say that about us,
Yeah, and I know that you do have also partners, right? That do
Yes.
help you guys out. Food
Right.
Depot, other organizations that do help you guys out and
Right.
assist you in your daily
Right.
services.
Originally, Mayor Koss envisioned this as a one-stop shop. So, and that's what it has become. He saw this location. It's central to the city, and trying to provide as many services as possible that can be, can be seamless in essence. So.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's get into let's talk to Melissa now. So Melissa, who approached you for this film?
Actually, a friend of mine was on the board, or is on the board, of the homeless shelter, and Monica Ontiveros, and she recommended me to these guys, and we had an initial meeting, and I just loved the project. I just thought, I have experience with documentary. And I thought this would be a great project to work on, and great for the shelter, for the community as a whole.
I watched the film. It's great. You've had it in a couple of film festivals too, as well, and it really does shows the message visualize what the daily services,
Right.
what the volunteers
Yes.
do. I think it's great. So how did you approach the sensitivity of it all? You know, like, I mean, as far as the topic of, you know, the homelessness and mental health and stuff, how did you guys kind of do that to keep the dignity of it all and to not get, and to keep the message on point?
Yeah. I mean, I have experience in the past with documentaries that have sensitive subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a lot of empathy going in. You know, I just tried to be sort of a fly on the wall a bit and not overbearing. And when people said, and there were people in the shelter, I don't want to be on camera, I totally respected that.
Yeah.
And so I started with the interviews, the main interviews, to get the narrative structure. And then over the course of, what was it, 6-7 months or something, started to get cutaways and more kind of verite footage of the shelter. But as you know, filmmaking, editing, shooting can take a long time. And I wanted it to because I wanted it to be right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, exactly. I was going to ask, during the process, was there anything that surprised either of you during the filming process that came out of the film?
I don't know. I mean, I think you captured it great. I mean, the shelter and the whole essence of the shelter. So I'm pleased with the product.
Oh, yeah,
that
absolutely.
that Melissa produced. So
yeah, nothing really, because we really did plan it pretty well. And because I did do the interviews before, I got information from the interviews as well. There were points that you know, like Julie and Bev and you wanted specifically covered in the video.
Right.
So I think, you know, going that approach, there wasn't really any big surprises.
No.
I thought that there was a young lady in there that was talking about she went to the shelter, got back on her feet,
Right.
and then she's coming back to the shelter to help, right?
Right. Well, you know, she still she's housed.
Yes.
She still participates in some of the programming. Like, she's involved with the Desert Chorale. She's got a great singing voice. You know, things like that. She'll come for. You know, a lot of the people, once they're housed, are living on very little income. So, you know, you can come for lunch, obviously, but you can also come we have dinner-only guests, you know, not just people who stay the night. And so some people are living on as little as $254 a month and $25 in food stamps. Now,
it's not enough to get along here in Santa Fe.
no, so, and then,
or anywhere, but, but here also.
Or SSI, which is $749 a month. But they still have rent, excuse me, they still have rent, they still have electric bills, utility bills, et cetera. So LaToya, in this case, she comes frequently for lunch and makes sure, you know, she eats and participates in some of the programming, you know. But there was also another woman in the film who chooses to sleep in her car, but she comes for the services.
It's interesting because I live down in Rio Rancho. I've been commuting up here, and there's a lady, an older lady there that we always see. Everyone in the community knows her, and everyone's approaching her. And someone that she trusts had posted something on Facebook saying she feels most comfortable living outside and doing what it is. And yes, it is mental illness is something that we. You know, it's tough for us to understand if you don't have a family member or someone in it, and it's natural for us as human beings to want to go and help somebody.
Right.
Right.
But what was also important to me was showing people, the guests at the shelter, these are real people.
Yes.
Right.
And they're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes.
The woman who sleeps in her car is not mentally ill.
No,
She comes
no,
off
yeah.
incredibly intelligent.
Yes.
Right.
There is a trans woman in the art. There's a segment on the art group.
Right.
Yeah.
Nicole.
Incredibly intelligent, Nicole. I mean, just you know, and you know, of course, we have these kind of visions of people like, you know, babbling and walk, but actually, a lot of people I met there were really intelligent, can have great conversations,
Yes.
intellectual conversations. You know, they're just like you and me. That's
Right.
the point here, is they're not the other, as one person said.
Yeah,
They
you
are.
can't group them into one group of saying
No.
everybody that,
I mean, they're our fellow citizens. I mean, I
Yes.
just want to, you know,
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they're struggling or not struggling with.
And
you know?
the shelter is such an integral part of the community.
Right.
And, you know, I know there are people out there who are like, oh, we don't want it near us, but it's like, why not? This is helping
Right.
people get off the streets. This is helping people, you know, get clothes and shelter and, you know, do these different activities they have. This is, you know, healthcare.
Right.
Yeah.
This is integral
Yes.
to the community.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm a firm believer that how we, you know, you can judge a culture by how they take care of those people who are in greatest need.
right.
And which is also sort of the baseline for most faith communities as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. We're going to watch the film, folks. After we're done with this, please stay tuned. We're going to show the film. We're going to show Melissa's film afterwards. So definitely check it out. I think it's amazing that there is, it's beautiful, a beautiful thing when you have an organization that gives unconditional care and services
Right.
to a community. You guys are doing the Lord's work, definitely, and thank you so much for everything you guys do. And thank you. It's pretty awesome to
Thank
be able
Melissa.
to put something out like that, to tell a story is sensitive to that, but to get across the message of the organization and do it so well. So
Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Yes,
Thank
no,
you.
absolutely. Thank you guys for coming on. Please stay tuned, and right after, we're going to cut right off to it, but have a safe week. Have a great week. This has been City Hall Live, and please stay tuned and watch the film.
The shelter arose because of an acute problem in Santa Fe. And we had homeless people who were living on the street and dying from hypothermia in the winter. In the fall of 2009, I began working more intensely with this coalition of faith communities and try to get a permanent shelter for homeless people in Santa Fe. We invited county officials, we invited state officials, we invited local city councilors and the mayor. I felt very strongly that the attempt to privatize social services ended up hurting people. And this is a public need, and you've got to step forward and provide a space for us. And that's how we got started.
The faith groups working together long preceded my arrival here. And I, you know, I really do think it's amazing that all these faith groups work together. We have everyone from A to Z, from the Adventist to the Zen Buddhist.
Upaya is a local Santa Fe Zen center. You know, this is just our community work to show up here all year round. It's, you know, it's a very basic practice of generosity and connecting, just connecting with people, and instead of making them something other or different than yourself, you connect a person to person, a human being to a human being.
Hi there. I hope you're hungry.
We have about almost 2,000 active volunteers. We have core teams and we have host teams, and at nights they rotate, and the larger faith groups might take a week to feed people. The smaller faith groups or community groups might take a night, you know, but it all works. We're the only come-as-you-are shelter in northern New Mexico, or a minimal barrier shelter, which means we accept everyone. So most of the people we see have mental health issues. Often they're self-medicating, and they really, for the most part, cannot get into the other sheltering programs, particularly in the city of Santa Fe. Every night we're sheltering between 100 and 110, 120 people. We're feeding between 120 and 135. People are not simply homeless for no reason. And usually it has to do with the fact that they don't get the help they need. There are people who are one paycheck away from being homeless. There are families who are couch surfing from one family member to another. So there's a whole spectrum of homelessness.
I was homeless for 7 years. My life took a turn to where I couldn't provide, And there were things that I lost because of that I'm trying to regain. Being involved with Interfaith Shelter, they help push me and send me to different places to get the resources I needed, to the closet to get clothes for my interviews, bus passes to school, providing medical services, providing counseling, and other things that they do here. They really have extended themselves more than 1,000,000 times.
The most important thing we provide for our guests is a socialization. And if you come here during a resource day for lunch, or you come here in the evening, you'll see people talking with staff, talking with volunteers. The primary focus became a community for people who don't have one.
This is a place that is welcoming. This is a place where we say, we're really glad you're here today. And we also can offer an opportunity to listen, to be, and I think for many volunteers, it's a way to broaden your community.
What I like about us is that we're non-judgmental. We accept people where they're at. We acknowledge their humanity. Some of these people go days without talking to another human being. People shy away from them, they take distance from them.
This particular shelter, our staff, executive director, have really made an effort to make sure that people see this as a place where they can connect, where there is community. We have tables and chairs for people when they come in to eat, so we eat around the table together. It's not just taking a plate and going off by yourself.
There's a lot of services going out of this building. We have 12 partner providers. The VA is here, LifeLink is here 5 days a week. We have the Food Depot here on Fridays enrolling people in food stamps. We have Homeless Court. Judge Vigil comes in and she comes in and presides over her court here. We have the Street Homeless Animal Project, and what they do is they provide free animal care for people's pets. I can make a plug for Smith's Veterinarian Hospital, who's done all this for free for us. We also do an art group.
I have been at this particular shelter for 4 days. 4 days? Yeah, I'm not new to homelessness, but new to this shelter.
I can't call myself a professional, but I've been doing art since I was probably old enough to sit up. I've been coming to the shelter for a little over a year. I used to sleep here, but I do not sleep here now by choice. It's just more calming for me to sleep in my car. But I come here for resource day, for art, for lunch, for dinner.
We do haircuts here for people. They get free clothing here. Last year we gave away more than 33,000 articles of clothing. And then one of my favorites is the Santa Fe Desert Corral. Janice came in here and said she had seen a homeless choir in, I believe it was Dallas, Texas, and she said, would you like to do that here? And I said, are you kidding me? Because anything that helps our guests feel better and normalize their life is a great thing.
When I was homeless, I didn't have support. All I had was Interfaith Shelter. And the people that work here are very dear to me. They are my family. I'm stable, I'm off the streets, I have a place to live. I don't have to worry about going back.
You know, we're all in this together. The guests, us, the staff, the volunteers, the larger community. Homelessness is a complex social problem, and it requires all the entire community to participate in its solution.